COVID-19. Again, folks, we will be looking at the response of the nation to COVID-19. And when we say response of the nation, of course, that includes the politicians, that includes ordinary Liberians, that includes all the institutions that should be part of this process of fighting this dead epidemic. And so, folks, that is why we have in store for you on this edition of our program, The Hour of Politics. And also, don't forget, we got a special guest here. The man Samson is Williams as our guest, and he is comfortably seated, as you can see right there. And he's in a hot seat. I got him in a hot seat. I'm sure he's more than able to answer all the tough questions that will be coming his way. Coronavirus is a tough disease, so if you come here to talk about the nation's response, you better be tough to answer all the tough questions that I have written for you. And so, folks in cyberspace, we are more than happy to welcome you. Hit that share button so that your friends, your contact, your neighbors can benefit from this conversation. We have decided to take a comprehensive look of this fight against this deadly epidemic since it started in the homeland. And the man Samson is here to answer all the questions. And at this time, we want to welcome our guest. Mr. Williams, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. C. It's a pleasure being here.
All right, we are more than happy to have you, my brother. Again, you heard him there. He's happy to be here and happy not only to be here, but to also answer all the tough questions. We are taking a comprehensive look at the nation's fight against this deadly pandemic. And quickly to get started, let's come to you, Mr. Williams. I may know you, but I'm not sure if all my viewers, my audience know you. And so the first question is, before we get to business, who is Samson H. Williams, for which he should be answering CS Gad on this great network to be talking about the nation's response to COVID-19? Who are you?
Again, thank you, Mr. C. Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure. It's a great honor. I do not take this lightly as it pertains our motherland, Mama Liberia. Thanks for the invitation. I was overwhelmed when I got the invite and to be on the show. And uh, again, like I said, as long as they have to do with Mama Liberia, we are always happy to do what we do. Uh, my name is Samson Ned Williams. I like to say that middle name just because it's my indigenous Liberian name from the Maryland County. Uh, I was born and raised in Liberia. Like I said, hail from Maryland County, and uh, as Mr. C rightly said, I'm a graduate of the Detour Memorial High School just 1 year after Mr. C graduated from that high school. So we are from the same alma mater. We graduated from the Detour Memorial High School. Mr. C was my senior when I was in the 11th grade, and I had the privilege to take a little bit of challenge on Mr. C at some point in time student politics, but I was whipped by Mr. C uh, and his party at the time. But we've been around and loving politics in everything we do just because we understand politics to be everything that surrounds us and everything that has to do with our well-being as citizens of our nations. Uh, uh, After graduating from the Detroit Memorial High School, I also graduated from Computer Net Associates, where I also taught some computer programs. Then I went to the IPMC Microsoft College in Ghana, Accra, where I got a diploma in networking and electronics. And so far, I do not like to talk about credential just because I'm not a huge fan of credential. I normally tell people I'm educated, and I like to leave it that way. But just for the purpose of this show, I want you to be aware that personally, I have a background in legal studies, in criminal justice psychology, and supposed to be graduating this April 26th with a dual major in political science and social science research methods. Uh, that is my background, if you call it that way, for education. And we've had a privilege to serve in many capacities. I had the privilege to have graduated from the first class of the Liberia National Police Academy under the supervision of the United Nations missions in Liberia, where I was one of the commanders for one of the platoons on the academy. And after graduating, I had the opportunity to travel at least twice to do some advanced police training and came back and I served the police force in Liberia with the rank of major, and then I served the Liberia Seaport Police as well as the chief of access control and then chief of operations before coming to the U.S. I also served as a deputy commander for joint security operations in Liberia for at least a year is before leaving the country. Uh, and presently, I am the founder and chief executive officer of Liberians United for, excuse me, for future empowerment here in the United States of America. We are presently operating in 3 states, and we've had the privilege to go and do a pre-launch in Liberia. And at this point, we are working on expanding our scope of operations around the world. We've been to London, we've been to Liberia, and we have people in Nigeria that are running our organization as well now as we speak. I also serve as the one of the trustees appointed by former Governor Mike Dayton, and I currently serve on the Minnesota State Board of Trustees for university and colleges. So right now, I am a trustee for higher education for this state of Minnesota, where I'm advocating for students in our 7 universities and 30 colleges, uh, going around doing a lot of meetings, just making sure that students' welfare is being met and that the state is living up to standard as far as it pertains education on both state and federal level. So that is me, wonderful, happy family man, and I'm a friend and I'm a brother, and I mean, just call me that, simple and plain. Thank you.
Mr. Samson H. Altnet Williams there, giving a little brief introduction of himself. I'm glad that you touched a little bit about our days in D12 when I was your senior, and you still carry that spirit, of aiming so high and you aim so high at the time, to defeat me, but that didn't happen. Maybe because I was big brother. Hey, folks, we got very, 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 very important business yes to handle. We are talking about the nation's response to COVID-19. When we say the nation, it includes everybody, down to Yanam Boy or the market woman downtown in Douala, where I used to live a few years back. And so let's get started here, Mr. Williams. So the response of the nation to COVID 19, before we start our major questioning, how were you qualified? Liberia's response as a nation, is it good? Is it bad? Is it okay? How will you, describe it?
Thank you, Mr. Sweet, Mr. C. Sorry, that's a very great way to start.
Mhm.
Liberia is uh, uh, country that have a very very unique constitution, just because the Constitution of Liberia was birthed out of the Constitution of the great United States of America. And one thing I tell people: if it is constitutional, it is right. Let's do it. If it is constitutional, it is right. Let's do it. Uh, we found that the issue of coronavirus is a global pandemic. It's not an epidemic. So that means it is not limited to just one nation. It is affecting the entire world. So it is an issue of grave concern. And I am proud that the people of Liberia, the government of Liberia, was able to, pay attention to that, unlike being caught unaware with the Ebola situation where many people lost their lives. Some of our relatives, I lost my uncle during that time. And at this time, we are able to start talking about it and putting mechanism into play as sooner than later. But notwithstanding, there are some things that I would call it measures that are being put into place right now that are very much unprecedented. Not only that they are unprecedented, but I found them to be, in violations to human rights. While it is true that the president of the Republic of Liberia has the support of the Constitution in keeping with Article 88 that gave the president right to, proclaim a state of emergency for at least 7 days. I like to repeat that at least 7 days. The president is in error right now as you speak for proclaiming
Mr.
a
Williams, we will get to all the details. What I was asking you is, let us get your overall assessment of the nation's response. Is Liberia responding okay, well, better? I mean, looking at other nations, then we will go into all the meat. I got all the meat, here for you. So, how is Liberia doing so far in terms of response, generally?
there is great misinformation that have put the people in doubt of believing whether the virus is real.
Mhm.
So the mechanism put into place, the government is not being really much adhered to by the people. So there is a conflict. I would say it that way.
All right. Thank you. Again, folks, in cyberspace, the stage is set. Now we can get to business here quickly. So let's start with the issue of preventive protocols or measures, if you like, that the government from the get-go did put into place in an attempt, to mitigate or slow the infection rate in the country. Uh, Tell me about those measures. Were those measures, preventive enough? Were the measures themselves preventive enough? Were they follow? I mean, what's your overall assessment of the initial measures put into play by the government?
Thank you, Mr. C. The measure is very much appropriate.
Mhm.
That is a good measure. We're not going to take that away from the government or the president, so to speak. I
Mhm.
think it's a good measure because everywhere around the world, the issue of social distancing, the issue of quarantine and isolation and so forth is very important because they are cardinal to minimizing the spread of the deadly coronavirus. So having a lockdown or stay home order is something that every nation should be doing by this time, to minimize the spread of the virus and minimize potential deaths. So I think the measure put into play or the decision to have those kind of orders or proclamation on the Liberian people or in Liberia as a nation is absolutely appropriate. I would say that freely.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
And I was talking about the initial protocols or measures put into play. Like for example, if somebody were coming from overseas, let's say from a coronavirus hot zone, what measures did the government put into play initially, to mitigate the spread of the virus? So I'm sure you know those measures. Were those
Right.
measures being abided by the people and including government officials as well? That's what I want to know.
Mr. C, the straight answer to that question is no. The government did mention that the issue of quarantine, not social distancing at the time, the government had not spoken about social distancing, but the government was key on the issue of quarantine. So meaning that government officials and everyone traveling from outside of the Republic of Liberia will have to be quarantined for a certain number of days before being exposed to the public and going on with normal basic or normal life. Unfortunately for the Liberian people, if you and I would go back in the early month of March, we found out that the first person that was said to have had the coronavirus was a government official. As a matter of fact, a public health official for the Republic of Liberia in person of Mr. Blama. And unfortunately, we saw a big fight at the Rabat International Airport where Mr. Blama refused to adhere to the quarantine process. And he was let go. Next thing I saw in that video, there was ambulance and police officers and everybody moving on to Mr. Blama's house. Mr. C, here is the thing. If you want the common people to abide by regulations passed by the government, why don't we start with the government herself? Why don't we start with the government officials themselves? So if the man who's supposed to be telling people, look, this thing is not right, he himself is escaping the issue of quarantine. He himself is escaping getting tested. He is the number one man I would speak very clearly that we can accuse of bringing the virus to Liberia because before Mr. Blama arrived from Switzerland, we have not heard about a single case of the coronavirus in Liberia. So if we were to make an open accusation and stand to defend it in a court of law, if Mr. Blama so chooses, then we would say Mr. Blama brought it. But what is Mr. Blama's role? Who should be educating the Liberian people? You're from out there, refuse to adhere to quarantine. You just walk up and you're in the street going about your normal business. So we have no idea how many people other than your cook and your office staff that you came in contact with. But it is disappointing that government officials themselves did not adhere to the issue of quarantine. Just before I end on that note, let me give you a very quick abscess of what I wrote down. Quarantine is used to keep someone who might have been exposed to the coronavirus. Now you stay away from others. So if you look at it, Mr. Blama, who is a public health official for the Republic of Liberia, had come back from Europe. Okay, and by this time we see that in Europe there is a widespread. Italy is getting affected. Everywhere in Europe is getting affected by this thing, and you get to the country and can't adhere to it. So how are you helping to keep the people safe? how are you abiding to the issue of quarantine? So
and
my
and
straight
and, and
answer to that question is no.
yeah, Mr. Will, and I think that it was reported that he came from Switzerland, right? And so
Correct.
when Mr. Blama came in, at some point we heard Mr. Blama saying that he was self quarantined at home, and but there was other report that he had contact with his a maid in the house. He had contact with his driver, and there was this whole noise about the driver too wanting to go to a quarantine facility. And at some point, to be fair to Mr. Blama, the government did not have a quarantine facility at the time, and so Mr. Blama was left with no option than to self quarantine. So what
How
you
can
say
we
to that?
how can we justify that Mr. Blama even self-quarantine? We followed the story the whole time just because we ourselves on this side, despite what we do other than politics. I mean, directly relates to healthcare and I work directly in laboratory. All right, and
Mhm.
I'll tell you this: why it is true that the government did not have a location for quarantine. I was quarantined. I have been quarantined. I self quarantined for 16 days in my house. I didn't have coronavirus. I was never tested for coronavirus, but because I went to work and I had a little fever, I had just come back from Africa, okay, and I had a little fever. Maybe it was typhoid, maybe it was malaria, maybe I was just exhausted over the long time I spent on flights coming here. All right, maybe it was the weather, but the fact that I went back to work the next day and I had 99.1 or 10, I was sent home and I self quarantined for 16 days and kept online doing the own care thing to make sure that I was doing well before I went back to work. That is quarantine. Okay. Mr. Blama could have self quarantined with evidence, with proof to the Liberian people that he did self quarantine. But Mr. Blama was seen flying the streets of Monrovia. Mr. Blama went back to his office. Mr. Blama Cook left Mr. Blama house and went to his own family house. So there is this thing that I tell people that if you fail to adhere to the rule, you are affecting more than just yourself. Okay, you're affecting other people. So there is a potential spread of the virus if you are out there instead of staying home. Mr. Blama's position would not have lost, or he would not have lost his position. Mr. Blama remained a government official. You could work from home, stay at home, and let the media. Now let's not forget one thing here, Mr. C. Mr. Blama's position in government. We're not talking about the public works minister. We're not talking about the finance minister. We're talking about a person that is in uh, the hierarchy of public health in the country who should be educating people.
And Mr. William, if I can jump in quickly, you think it would not make any sense to isolate Mr. Obama's individual behavior from the role of the government? At least the government have a little protocol in place, even though they don't have the quarantine center at some point. So Mr. Obama should have known better. And so, why don't we isolate Mr. Blama's behavior from government and want to say that, oh, it's government because he's a government official? What you say to that?
Mr. C,
Yes.
if the father of the house
Hmm.
would sit back and
Right.
ignore the issue of discipline
Hmm.
and allow his son to
Hmm.
go out there and rudely behave, it
Hmm.
reflects on the father. If the pastor of a church would go out there and they misbehave, he did it as an individual, but the reflection is on the church or
Right.
the ministry. Mr. Blama is a government official. There is no way, in my understanding, that we can detach Mr. Blama's attitude or acts of in adherence to the quarantine regulation, you know, as an individual thing and not allow it to be reflected on government. We
All
will
right.
be making a mistake.
All
I
right.
think Mr.
And then
Blama
later,
should be held
and then later,
accountable.
quickly, the government put into play a quarantine center, and other people started coming in, and those people were quarantined. Unlike other people, we had who had some connection with the government. We heard about Elizana Cummings was quarantined. We heard about Morali was quarantined, and then we also heard about other individuals who were not quarantined because of their connection. So your general conclusion here will be what? That the government were being selective, or the government was doing what it's supposed to do, was those individuals who are not abiding by the rules.
You see, I said something to somebody yesterday. When
Hmm.
you run a nation as a president, as a government, when you run the nation on party basis after election, you're in error. These are the things that come your way, and you got to take the largest for it. You can't run away from it. You're in error. You watch all of these people that are being. I mean, to answer your question more directly, there is a selective thing that's happening in Liberia when it comes to the issue of coronavirus. All of the people who the president appointed that are in error for the coronavirus or claim to have been affected, these people are treated with respect, and some of these things are even covered. I'll give you one instance. The Minister of Public Work was accused of coming in close contact with his assistant minister, James, but failed to disclose it. Okay, who should we hold responsible?
Was he never quarantined?
He was never quarantined. Never quarantined. And now they try to shift all of that on the common people. He want to leave it on his assistant. You can't treat the people in Liberia that way. If you set the rule, you got to abide by the rule.
All right.
You
All right.
can't tell people to
All
abide by
right.
the rule. Away
All
from it.
right. Thank you. All right, folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. We are discussing the nation's response to COVID-19, the deadly epidemic that has instilled fear in every nation there is um, on the let's say on the face of the earth. All right. So let's come to this quickly. Let's look at testing and tracing. All right. Any information you have on testing? Does the country, uh, have any testing mechanism in place? And if so, we heard also about this contact tracing thing. We heard about 6,000 people being recruited under the auspices of MCC, the Monrovia City Corporation, to move into the field and try to trace individuals who may be potential carriers. Your response to that, testing and then contact tracing. I think is the government doing okay on that?
The government is not doing okay on that. I stand here on this public media to say the government is in serious error when it comes to testing and tracing. Number one, the coronavirus have two testing procedures so far that is still being questioned and still being investigated by the CDC. So what the CDC have written, this is not my words I'm about to tell you. Okay. The CDC has prescribed the nasal swab procedure to be able to dig up what we call the RNA in the laboratory process. So when you're looking for RNA, something we call RNA in that process, you're trying to figure out the cause of the virus and get the trace of the danger of that virus. So that means we're going down to reducing the RNA down to a DNA. Okay, so DNA there is to give you the origin of the virus. That's the only way you will be able to find precaution for that virus or that illness, right? So Liberia have not proven to us that they have these missionaries in that country. I listened to the Ministry of Public Works, specifically the board of pharmacy or whatever they call in Liberia. They did one show one morning, and I was following the show, and I listened to one of the officials said, "Look, we have the machines that we use to test people for Ebola. That's the same machine we're using to test people for the coronavirus." Now, in laboratory, we say there's a difference between hematology testing and chemistry testing. There's a difference between chemistry testing and urinalysis testing. So we got different kinds of tests that are performed in laboratory. How sure are you that the machine that tested people for Ebola is able to test people for coronavirus? Now you have to be able to distinguish the two before you can make that judgment. Okay.
Is that information you provide incredible?
It is credible as I speak. I have one of the public officials from the pharmaceutical bureau in Liberia right in my house. He was on the show, and I was on the show, and he called on the show in my presence. And we still have that show. I can send you a copy of it. We still have the show. We have all of the recordings for it. And I'll tell you that the Ministry of Health branch or sub branch that is responsible for testing people. I want to believe it was the Institute of Public Health or something that came up and said, "Look, we did Ebola. We tested people for." And to be specific, the person who spoke was Dr. Fala. I'm quoting Dr. Fala.
Wow. Well, he's a
Okay,
medical practitioner, so maybe he knows what he was saying.
it is wrong. I'm
Okay.
not a medical practitioner to his level, but when it comes to laboratory, when it comes to testing, I have a detailed know-how in this process. And you cannot tell me that a chemistry test is the same as a cytology test. You cannot tell me a pathology test is the same as a hematology test. You cannot tell me a hematologist is the same as urinalysis. You got to be able to break all of that down to the Liberian people for them to understand. And that is the problem we are faced with in Liberia in this process. The people are not educated, and you're screening the people and beating them up.
And
People are
then
not educated.
the issue of contact tracing or contact tracers, if you like, the 6,000 of
Yeah.
them.
No, my brother, it is disappointing. It's sad. This is the point, the moment I was waiting for in this thing. excuse me for the language, is a clear nonsense to have the Monrovia City Corporation be in charge of designating people that will do contact tracing. They are not healthcare workers. Look, you cannot dress the devil and bring the devil out and disgrace it. You have a health ministry, you have the other agencies that are attached to the health ministry. The health ministry have direct contact with the CDC. The health ministry have direct contact with other great health organizations around the world, like the WHO and so forth. You left all of them and you're putting the city mayor of Monrovia in charge of tracing. Now let me just dive into tracing. Tracing is the process by which we go around and finding people who have symptoms of the virus and taking them away into a quarantine facility so that they don't get to affect other people. We're not saying they have the virus. We're saying you have symptoms. So move away so that we take care of you and get you better and back on your feet so that others don't get affected to save your life and other people's lives, right? So if you're going to carry on such process, you need professionals. You need the people who know how to do it. You can't take Jefferson Koji and put him on top of tracing. Let's come to the issue of testing again. I will close on this, except you want to follow up on the question. But if you have the great United States of America, my brother, when coronavirus started, do you know when we got to the place in America where the CDC came up and said we have at this time we have at least 20% of testing capacity, not even 100%. The great United States of America does not have 100% testing capacity as we speak. That is the reason why the stay-home order and state of emergencies and all these things are lockdown, not state of emergency. Lockdown came to effect
And
because
and
they
and,
do
and
not
Miss,
have testing power. And you are sitting there, you
mhm,
don't have testing power. You're
right.
not educating the people, and you're telling the people you put stay-home order, you put this, but you're not educating the people on nothing. And you brought a man who has no medical know-how to be in charge of such a thing. Again, it boils down to politics because the president is trying to keep his clique together on top of things in the country,
Miss,
even
Mr.
at the detriment of the
Mr.
people's lives.
Williams, I had an opportunity during my research to listen to the city mayor. The city mayor said these individuals were trained for a number of days by medical professionals. And so the conclusion or the criticism that many of them were seditious who were recruited and were not given any form of training to know what they were charged to do is pure politics and man hate, and when he said that he was going after one of Liberia's own, Chris Yan, who is a medical expert who signed a serious warning about the idea of sending individuals who are not medical practitioners in the field to do contact tracing. And so the mayor said, contrary to what Dubai Yan and other, people have been saying out of manhood, cutting him now, those people were trained, and so they got to know what to do and how to do it. And so it was right because, they have no that many options on the table. That's the right thing they needed to do. What do you say to that?
Uh, Mr. C,
Yes.
look, I'll tell you what. I just got back from Liberia.
Okay.
The issue of job security, job protection, protecting your space in government, protecting your spot in government is a very serious issue in Liberia, especially with this government. I worked 7 years of my young life in Ellen government as a security personnel, way in the hierarchy. And I'll tell you what, it is heartbreaking, very much disturbing to find that Koji, my little brother and friend, Koji, will come up to defend such nonsense. Where did you do the training? These are things that should not be in hidden. These are things that should not be in hidden. How will you claim that you have trained or you are training 6,000 people who are what happened to the people who work on an Ebola team? Go to Front Page Africa. We'll see how many of them are crying, how many of them are saying, look, we dealt with this situation before. Some of us want to apply, some of us want to get back in. You turn them down. You're recruiting new people because look, CDC is a very large political party. Somebody just said that we should distinguish CDC, and I'll take that into serious consideration. We are talking about when we're talking about Liberia and Jefferson Koji and this MCC process, we are talking about the CDC in Liberia, the Coalition for Democratic Change. When I talk about CDC as it relates to testing and tracing, I'm talking about the Center for Disease Control. So I like to set that record straight.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
important.
So talking about CDC here as a
Mhm.
political institution in Liberia, CDC cannot tell us that you're training people and the nation at large does not know. My brother, let's be politicians here for a second. If I am in power and I want the nation to know, I'm already facing a lot of accusation of corruption. If I want the people to be convinced that I'm doing things in the interest of the people, do I do these things in Haiti? I bring them up so that the very people who are accusing me will see it, so that opposition will see it. So how can you train 6,000 people when nobody in the nation, other than the 6,000 people you have selected or 2,000 people you have selected themselves that know you are training them? What I mean, where is the program for us to see the certification? We are talking about public health here. In America, you don't do. I'm not trying to compare America to Liberia, anyways, but we're talking about public health in general. Everywhere around the world, even right there in Sierra Leone, you will not do a public health training with individuals who are supposed to be curtailing such a deadly disease or virus that taking many lives all around the world, and you keep it in secret. So I'm in total disbelief to that, except they can bring proof. And I challenge the government. If you
And so to conclude here, Mr. William, you are saying that if they did any training at all, such a training needed to be to the knowledge of the public, and that if they did it in secret, then it's something people should not buy.
No, if the data is secret, people should not buy it. We're
Okay.
talking about people's lives. We're
Okay.
talking about the life of the masses here.
Hmm.
Mr. C, at the University of Liberia, you can recall, we
Hmm.
got something we call the concern of massive crossing.
Right.
We wore our soup t-shirts running around. We carried massive crossing. We didn't carry Alfonso Socrates Nimle. We didn't carry Uriah Temple. We didn't carry Kudubu Sharif. We didn't carry Thomas Kedor. We carry massive crossing. It's about the people. Democracy, as we have in Liberia, is for the people, by the people, and of the people. You cannot do things for the people while the people are not aware of what you're doing for them. That is fallacies.
Thank you. All right, folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics. Your guy is Anthony C. Your guest is Samson H. Williams, and we are discussing the nation's response to COVID 19. Don't go away. We are just getting started. You haven't seen anything here. Oh, let's come quickly to informing. Information is key in the fight against any pandemic. Not only in the fight against any pandemic, information in this day and age is very, very important. And also, when we talk about informing your people about a pandemic of this kind of magnitude, of this viciousness, the people must be informed with the information they need to protect themselves. How is our nation, Liberia, doing in informing the Liberian people? So, first question, the regular press briefing of the nation to its people in this fight, is it up to the standard that you can take and swallow or not?
No disrespect to my big brother, the information minister, Honorable Eugene Nangwe, but
Is he
it is
sleeping?
he is not sleeping. He is almost dead. He's in coma. Okay, sleeping is an honest statement. He's in
Okay.
coma.
Okay.
Now, before the issue of the coronavirus, I mean, it became clear to some extent, it became
Right.
clear to the Liberian people that the information minister is just a puppet. He's just a furniture in the government. He came to Minnesota. We talk about it. I'm not disrespecting my big brother. Trust me. You know that we are from the same alma mater, Eugene Nangwe, and everybody, Eugene Nangwe assisted me in my campaign when you graduated and left, when she won her first election in D12. As a
Right.
matter of fact, Eugene Nangwe was my guest speaker when I won my election in D12, and he turned it down, and he sent a former Secretary General for NPP to the school. So talking about Whitfield, John
Yeah.
Whitfield.
John
So
Francis Whitfield.
right. Look, we have a very great relationship, but I'm telling you, I told my big brother straight up when he came to Minnesota, right on the soccer field, we're playing soccer, and I told him, big brother, you are sleeping. You seem like a furniture. You were just placed there because of relationship. Let me tell you, you cannot be the information minister who wants to give all of the information, but you have to go to the president office and then you sit down and you screen the information and you come up with what will please the people here. I agree. The Bible says in the last day, people will want to hear what they want to hear. They will have itchy ears. But we're not talking that here. We are talking about the people well-being. If you are having no one from the health ministry coming to authenticate the information you are giving to the public, you are in error. I am telling you, this is the time where we need collaborative efforts. This is a collective work. This is not individual work. This is not about party politics. All right. If the information ministry wants to disseminate information as it relates to health, let the health ministry be in partnership with that information, be in an agreement with that information, because the only arm in government that is able to authenticate any information as it relates to the health of the Liberian people. And this coronavirus will be the health ministry. We're not going to take that away from them. So I think the government is in error. The government is not working collaboratively with the entities or agencies that should be on top of this whole coronavirus thing. And
Mr.
we have to
Mr.
go back
Mr.
to where we
Williams,
were.
Mr. Williams, the Ministry of Information always having this regular briefing on Thursday. And are you saying that they should think like the Westerners? We see the White House having a daily press briefing. The president is coming out. We see Governor Cuomo is coming out. I mean, every leader there is, faced with this crisis, shows up to the podium because the information is key to preventing.
Absolutely.
And you are saying that our government is not doing that, so Eugene Namo is in coma. So what
Eugene
do
Nama
you
is in
want to
coma.
see?
What I want to see now, let's look at it this way.
Mhm.
Why do we want to travel to the United States of America? Why do we want to go to London? Why do we want to go to Australia? Isn't that to adapt, all of those positive things and bring them back to our country?
That's why it is.
Why are we not bringing them back? If you're looking at the place where people are dying every day, let's see it. If I want to learn how to do media business very well and how to speak, clear politics like you do on your show, I have to come to you to learn it from you. And whatever you teaches me is what I have to bring back as deliverable. So if you're gonna sit there and travel all around the world and you're looking at the greatest nation in the world, losing 500 individuals on a daily basis, and you can copy the style of information dissemination from them, then who are you? Who are you? If the president will set up a task force, the task force should be able to brief the people. There is nowhere in the world. Now let's get this. This is a epidemic. All right, like I said from the beginning, this is an
Mhm.
epidemic. It's not an epidemic where it's just in one place, and people are dealing with it as a nation and stuff like that. It's global. All right. So you look at what people are doing around and that are helping their countries. You don't just get up and go in a clique and go. I mean, the clique syndrome in this government is just so bad, and even at the detriment of the people helping Liberia. Why can't you set up a task force with healthcare professionals, public health workers that will be able to brief the Liberian people on a daily basis? We need that strategy. We
So
need that
so
to
so 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 you are not just only disappointed, you are something else. What is that something else?
something else is the government again has failed her people. And
Thank you.
starting, look, I wish this was the time where if it is only healthcare that could determine the clear education of elections for the Liberian people not to make. Mr. Say, can you imagine you and I talking this about the Coalition for Democratic Change? Come on, man, we've watched for it. And now we have gone, we come to the place to become realists that the people are not being treated fairly. It is
All right.
disheartening.
All right. I got something for you. Maybe this time around you will give the country Liberia maybe A or maybe B or maybe C as passing mark. We're talking about a son. So when this issue of the coronavirus, got serious to the point that almost everybody was paying attention, then came a beautiful son from the office of the president. And the son is, I don't know whatever the title is, but it's on a project, and that project is called the Weird Son. The coronavirus sons were released. Beautiful son, very purposeful, very timely, and very captivating. And even though who don't can't understand English, will understand the beat and will want to ask, what is this about? And they will get to know it's about a deadly epidemic. Do you give Liberia A, B, C, or F?
I'm glad you didn't even bring D. You went straight to F because I was going to ask you to bring F if you have brought D instead of F. I'm
Okay.
being honest here.
Okay.
Look, we are talking about a situation, you know, that have brought the government is claiming the people in the country are dying from already. And the president is in studio making a music. As a matter of fact, the president is in error. He copyright the music. That's not even his. I mean, he's not the original producer of that song.
Uh-oh.
Okay, the president is not the original producer of the song. The song was produced in Sierra Leone, and the president was on the feature on that music during the Ebola time. The original version of that song is about Ebola from a guy in Sierra Leone. with dreadlocks who want to feature Josh Weah as a goodwill ambassador.
So is the president in error here, or did he commit a crime here?
The president, if now the copyright law says if the person, the original
Yes.
producer of that song,
Hmm.
the president, somebody was discussing patent law. No, that's not a violation of patent law. This is not a material. Okay, copyright law has to do with things like music and movies and stuff like that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So if the president did not get the approval of the original producer of that song, the president behaved in an odd way, in an odd manner. It's
Wow.
legally wrong. He's in error. That's not his music. And he called it, the reason why I'm saying this is because the president called it the We Are Project, the We Are song. Everything the president is doing now, everything the vice president is doing now is all individualistic. And that's not the way you run democracy. Before, if you keep on that path of taking that trench, you're dragging into what we call totalitarianism. Okay?
Wow.
You drag into dictatorship. You gotta be careful. The people are dying. You said it, Mr. President, not me. I am still in doubt that one person have died from coronavirus in Liberia. I am still in doubt. And we can go into that talk. I can go to Liberia, we can talk about it.
All
But
right.
you can't be using that time to make music, man. Come on.
Wow. You cannot be taking that time to make music. The president, in his, I would think, his own opinion, say, hey, time like this, you want to release a song, and, so that the people can pay attention more. But it seems to be that is not flying for you. Okay, let's leave it right there. Those of you who are fan of the president's song, I'm not a fan of that song. I can't see my people live arrays, and you want me to dance to the tune of the music. That's not what I do. All right, let's go to serious business here. The SOE, the state of emergency and aid enforcement by the security apparatus. First of all, I want you to speak to the issue of the state of emergency as was declared by the president. Right move or wrong move?
The state of emergency is the right move. We're gonna talk about two things in the state of
Was
emergency.
it
The president,
belated?
right? Say that again.
Was it also belated or timely?
It has a time. It has a timing problem.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Speak to that.
Now, when I started, I
Mhm.
told you about the president's constitutional right
Mhm.
to proclaim a state of emergency.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Sid,
Uh-huh.
for our listening audience, I
Right.
have copy of the Liberian Constitution right before me.
Right.
And Article 88 of the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia
Mhm.
states the president shall immediately upon the declaration of a state of emergency, but no later than 7 days thereafter, lay before the legislature. Maybe we should go back a little bit up to 80, to come down to 86. 86 says the president may, in consultation with the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the President pro tem of the Senate, proclaim or declared the existence of a state of emergency in the Republic. That's just in part, right? That is just in part. So the Constitution is telling us, in summary, that the president has the right, if he sends something to be a threat to the life of the Liberian people, he can come up and declare a state of emergency. That's fine. We gave that to him. And big applause to Senator Darius DeLong for pointing that out. Now, one government official who have pointed to that, especially the opposition, but Darius DeLong, who and I don't always agree, but I gave him a big A on that. All right. So the president do have the right to declare a state of emergency. We gave that to the president. But the Constitution says it should be done and the limit should be 7 days. Error number one for the president. You cannot declare a state of emergency for about 3 weeks. You are wrong. It's unconstitutional. The law, the Constitution, which is the supreme legal body of the nation, states that you can declare a state of emergency for 7 days, and then within the period of 7 days, you have to bring your petition before the legislature for them to decide it and then give you an approval to move forward or to cancel the state of emergency. That was never done. You went ahead and declared a state of emergency. That's a violation to the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. The president was in error. Let's talk about intent. I like to talk about intent.
Let's do
President
that.
intention, I would call it good, all right,
Mhm.
because that's what happening all around the world. So the president made a good move. But the measures are out of play. The measures are out of play, Mr. C. You
Okay.
cannot keep the people in doubt, out of the loop, and then impose curfew instead of emergency on them. The big question is, why am I staying home? Why am I leaving the street? Most of us sell in the market. We have to come home from selling before we even start cooking. We can stay in front of our houses to cook. Why is that, Mr. President? What was the president's explanation for the state of emergency? There's coronavirus. You are yet to provide clear proof, convincing evidence to the Liberian people that there is coronavirus in Liberia because you lack the a proper testing mechanism.
Mr. Williams, are you one of those Liberians who are questioning the possibility or the truthfulness of the presence of coronavirus in Liberia? Is that why you question?
I I am in doubt. I am in serious doubt. I hate to say I want to put up a challenge.
Mhm.
I can fly to Liberia today if there was a way for me to, so that I can go to the health ministry. I can bring my badge. I have a healthcare badge. I can bring and tell you, look, I work in laboratory. This is what I do. So please run this test in front of me and let me
And
see.
and the last time I checked, I think the cases were up to 50 or around 50, and these were cases that were confirmed by medical professionals, and you are doubting them. It's not just one case, about 50 of them, and
But
they even reported death and recoveries, and you are staying down. Where's your doubt coming from? From heaven?
you know, Mr. C, in as much as I enjoy my relationship with the church and the work that I do for my church,
Right.
uh, I like to say God will not, the days of manna falling from heaven has passed,
Okay.
right? Way back since the day of Moses, the days of manna falling from heaven have passed. We're done with that, right? When Moses went to liberate the children of Israel from Egypt, we heard that. Manna is not going to fall from heaven anymore. You're in the wilderness. You got to look up to God. And this, that, that. Moses started trying to teach them how to follow God's directive. Mr. President, if your health ministry is testing people, that is the reason why we need the task force to come and give these daily briefings. That is the reason. Don't keep the people in doubt. Don't just sit in one office and say, we tested 10 people, we tested 9 persons, 8 people died from it, or 5 people died from it. So give me money, and give me money. I was one of those living in the diaspora that came up and said to the world that the president intention behind this is for money to go to the country. Nothing wrong with that. But with that money being used for healthcare, healthcare is dead in the nation. How can you say you tested people? You have no evidence, my brother. Here is the thing: which hospital, which laboratory? Now, what? Who are these people? Like, we're talking about contact tracing here. So where are the people that they came in contact with? Have you gone to get them and put them in hospitals? How many people you have in hospitals? How many people are? I mean, people are on ventilators right now. I mean, you're creating doubt. I don't have a problem with anything that's going on, but I'm talking about the measures put into place. I say keeping the Liberian people out of the loop. There's too much misinformation.
All right. Let's come to the issue of enforcing, the SOE by the Joint Security, that includes all the security apparatus. And we see a lot of people are involved in this process, of enforcement. We see the police, we see the military, talking about AFL, we see the BNI, the Bureau of Immigration, the officers are there. We see Boy Scout, we see city police, and interestingly also we see, I think they call the motorcyclist union. All of these people, some of whom are now part of the joint security or part of any statutory institution, sorry, that is under the joint security, are enforcing the law. And guess what they have in their hands? I see ratans in the hands of Boy Scout, and they are using those ratans. The police have ratans in their hand. They are using those ratans. I saw a video of a lady who was beaten, according to her, in front of her house with blood profusely coming from her nose and her mouth. Are they not doing the job they were supposed to do as mandated by the president? Are they not?
Mr. President, I call you Mr. President. Well, let's call that prophetic.
Well, maybe I can be president for SASTA. Maybe. Let's go.
But Mr. C,
Yes.
this is this is the most cardinal issue that
Okay.
the Liberian people are faced with right now.
Okay.
Strong human rights violation is happening. Uh, like I say, I'm a graduate from the police academy.
Okay.
I am trained. I am a trained police officer. right? And look, I'll tell you what. The purpose of the CPA, when we were talking about revamping the security sector of the Republic of Liberia, when the CPA was signed, there
Mhm.
was something in there that was a clause for police training. And that thing stated crisis management skills. And you know the good news about that?
No.
I was fortunate to have been one of those to even teach crisis management skills. All right? It is disappointing. It is sad. Let me read you something from former police director Gregor Cuomo. I love this guy, and trust me, I can walk this guy hand to the executive marshal and have the president of Liberia shoot my head. I don't care. All right?
Mhm.
This is politics, and this is the act of being real with the Liberian people, not just when you need them to vote for you. Listen to the words of Gregor Como, former police director of the Republic of Liberia. He said, as law enforcement officer given the power and authority to execute such mandate, you should know your fundamental duty. He didn't stop there. He said your fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against abuse or disorder, and to respect the constitutional right of all to liberty, equality, and justice. These
For
are
all.
words of former police director Gregory Cuomo.
And break that down for us.
What he's saying is clearly defining the right, I mean, the function of law enforcement officers in the country. But my brother, you thought you saw one video. I follow them every day. I gave you an example. The so-called, excuse my language, but I'm not afraid to call him that. Spokesman of the Liberia National Police is also part of this joint security enforcing things and went to the extent of attempting to kick a young man in his face because he dropped on his knees to beg him, even though this young man had a letter signed by the Justice Minister of the Republic of Liberia as a pass to be in the street. But Moses Carter could not read the letter. Another police officer came and read the letter and told him, but chief, this is his pass from the justice ministry. It's signed by the justice minister. He said, but then the fact that he has his wife in his car, so you carry the car to Central. And then when the guy went and dropped on his knees to beg Moses Carter used his left leg to push the guy out of his way. I will send you a copy of the video. I saved everything. That not only that, do you know that police officer Ayrton shot 2 rounds from his revolver between the leg of an unarmed man in the name of his suspicion or his speculation or his belief that this guy has violated the curfew. This young man is a motorcyclist. As a matter of fact, the girlfriend of this young guy explained in a video that her boyfriend is even part of the joint security because can you imagine the president
Wow.
even have who do we put this blame on? The president. The president even have motorcyclists on the joint
Motorcyclists.
security team. Motorcyclists. Okay. I will speak to the issue of AFL and police and this that, but motorcyclists on the joint security. Now this guy is one of them though. The guy is one of them. The guy left duty that you have assigned him to take a break. Came to his girlfriend's house to eat. In his presence, police officer Ayrton walked to her on her porch and said she was in violation of the curfew order by being on her porch at that time of the evening.
But the question is there a curfew order in the first place?
That is the problem. When you have a state of the people are not, look, government has a responsibility to educating the people on things like proclamation, on things that new bills that turn into laws. You have a responsibility. Now, Mr. President, you are not giving the legislature a chance to craft this thing well for you before putting it out there. Let's agree you executed your constitutional right by coming up with state of emergency. But give it your 7 days while the brains behind legalities in the country can look at these things that you are breaking down on paper and see whether they are justifiable or need to be modified. But you're not giving chance to that. You take people and you fund joint security of all kinds. I told you I was deputy commander of joint security before, and what they are doing right now, that's not the function of joint security. It is not.
Wow.
So you got this young man beating, police officer beating his girlfriend in front of him. Mr. C, I defied that man. You beat my spouse in front of me in the name of you being police officer and that I violating curfew on my porch. You either kill me or I kill you.
All
You're
right.
gonna disrespect me like that. So that happened, Mr. CA, and you won't believe. The guy did not even physically get on Ayrton to fight him. The guy got on his motorbike and telling Ayrton, you need to stop hitting on her. You need to stop. And he took right hand and started beating the guy. When the guy said, stop hitting me, you're in uniform, I don't want to touch you. Guess what? Boom, he pulled up his gun, pull out between the young man's legs, and there was a police pickup that came, pick him up, and took him away, drop him wherever, and the police car came back to see if the guy was okay. And fortunately for the guy was okay, and he left. Can you
So,
imagine that?
yes.
Let me so the issue of John security in Liberia.
All right.
When you were structuring John security, I've been part of John security. 2006, there was an operation in Liberia called Operation Thunder Sun. If you can recall, what we call the Isagaba Boys.
Right.
Our boys came to Monrovia. We went to the Justice Ministry. The John security was established right there in the late, may his soul rest in peace, Councillor T.C. Gu office. I was right there with my director at the time. As for Bill, we were right there. It got set up. Conor Hammer from the NBI, we were right there. Okay, in fact, I became his deputy, and we were right there. And guess what? The mandate to the John security was to set up checkpoints and just monitor the people in the street as they move around, telling them that there were bad guys in the street, that they needed to leave the street. It wasn't safe for them. So kind of creating awareness, which the Liberian government did not do with the issue of coronavirus, which they are not doing to provide clarity on who is part of the John security, like the MCC or director of security and the spokesman for police are arguing today. Mr. CA, when you set up a John security, it's not to beat people. How can you have Bosco? How can you have Bosco? I like the president of the Bosco Association of Liberia. I like his statement. And I saw that on Front Page Africa. He said, if any one Bosco is again found in the street being part of the John security, you will no longer be Bosco. I was a Bosco, Samaritan Troop 25, on Captain Hassan. We never took part in state issue.
Right.
That's not your place.
No.
Let's talk about the Monrovia City Corporation. You're not a state security group. You're a city security group. You're for the city of Monrovia. Even for the Republic of Liberia, you have limits. Just like the Liberia Civil Police is confined to the National Port Authority and the Liberia National Police is over everything. You needed to set the police director down. You needed to get your national security advisor. You needed to get the NSA down. You needed to get NBR down. Put all of these security forces together. Look, I like Omar Selly scope of operation when it comes to security. You needed to set these people down, let them give you advice, Mr. President. But you got up and you did it selectively because, again, you wanted to keep your CDC stalwarts in active duty and having them move in the street, whereby the people who are supposed to be in the street looking for the data bread, you're keeping them. I will conclude by saying this. The president did not clearly say whether there was a curfew. People could define being out of the street by 3 p.m. as a curfew. The difference between a state of emergency and a curfew is very simple. I was having a conversation with my buddies last night, and I was saying, when you impose a curfew, let's go back to the war. It depends on the situation in the country. It depends on the happening, the reason for which you want to bring the curfew. The time we saw curfew where people were beating, where ECOMOG were beating people, it was because people were shooting people in the street, killing them. So it was a government strategy to preserve people's life.
All right. All right. Let's touch on something quickly so we can bring our callers in. Let's touch on something quickly here and bring our callers in. They have been waiting, and we want to hear from them as well. And that is buckets. So the humanitarian component in this fight is we see a lot of people, private citizens, some may term some of them as humanitarian. Politicians as well are in this business of giving buckets to hungry people. You know, whether or not they eat or not, give them a bucket, let them wash their hands. And the president is also leading this campaign of buckets with his picture on it. I'm not sure you are happy with that either. And the vice president, Joel Howard Taylor, jumps on the bandwagon of bucket with picture on it. I think they are happy. What do you think?
They are not happy nothing. All right. Look,
Okay.
you don't use crisis, to exercise your political intention, political motive, seek hidden agendas. You don't do that. Let me give you a clear definition I derived for politics. Don't bring politics into this whole coronavirus thing on the Liberian people that are suffering. In red light this morning, people were beaten mercilessly. All right, people walk from Gardnersville or not Bannerville Market all the way to Red Light, and you can't allow them to get in car, but to walk home, but you're on motorbike and this that. Who are you protecting if it is not in the interest of the people who is it for? Politics is a struggle in any group for power that will give one or more persons the ability to make decisions for a larger group. The ability for one group to make decision for a larger group. If we expand on that, that decision should be in the interest of that larger group. If it is not in the interest of the people, you're playing self politics. And it's for self gain. I am disappointed in the president. I'm disappointed in the vice president to politicize this.
Are
You're
they running
talking about
campaign?
that's a campaign strategy. I'm just about to go there.
Okay.
Now you're looking at the fact that the president of the Republic of Liberia had lost Maserati County, so to speak. This is a strategy to win out of the counties the president have lost. And you cannot gain those counties by doing that. One of the hits on Donald Trump is his early overlook of the coronavirus epidemic in America. And that is why Josh we are explaining with. Okay, when you talk, people say you try to make comparison between America and we're talking about the style of leadership. We're talking about how you respond to these kind of things as a leader. The president failed that again. You already brought music. The music, not even your own music. Let me tell you Liberian way. You told somebody on a song. You came and sang it like it's your own. That's copyright. All right. The Liberian people already murmuring on it. This guy doesn't just care when the people are talking. The Liberian people are murmuring on that. Then you take bucket and hit on it. Then you call it the We Are Project. You personalize it. Mr. C, if you can recall, I said one of the greatest enemy of democracy is individualism. One of the greatest enemy of democracy is individualism. I expect the vice president to know better than this. The fact that the president did it, you are doing it as well. You as a legal mind. Okay? You as a legal mind is going ahead to do the same thing the vice president, the president did. Putting your picture and calling it the We Are Project, the Joa Project, and there's that. We don't need all that nonsense right now. You know what we need? We need collaborative effort. We need a strong task force to brief the people. We need much awareness created. The people need to be educated. Let the people, Liberian people are smart. They know how to read between the lines. They don't want to die like they died during the Ebola time. But if you're not creating awareness, you give the people reason to doubt everything you're saying. And then you're there making bucket look. That's a political strategy. The president wants to win back those places that he lost. Those places he's fighting to win. He thinks that this is an opportunity for him to get back those votes. All right. We're not talking constituent thing here or constituency thing here. We're talking about the lives of people. So if you want to do that, I think instead of it being political, it could be more humanitarian. Look, I gave again to Darius DeLong, who I saw watch on video, put his hands in his pocket, bought buckets and Clorox and things, and divided it to people. Maybe he didn't spend much money on it, but the fact that he did it, and then I have to seek a picture and talk to the people. He even, advised the people, yo, please leave the street. You know the thing is bad and this, that. Look, George, we are being a president who came from the slum like myself. Mm-hmm. I would expect him to be the one in the street and talking to people and not creating pictures and sticking it on buckets and telling the people is the We Are Project. Okay, so call the death of the people that you cannot get a count of in the street, the 8 people, call it the We Are Project. How about that? The people that are being flogged and getting bruised up by your so-called John security, call it the We Are Project. Go and stick labels on these dead bodies and call it the We Are Project. Complete nonsense. It needs to stop.
Complete nonsense is need to stop. That's the tall words of my guest here, and his name is Samson H. Williams. All right, let me go to my phone and read some comments. I don't know, for some reason I tried to turn my phone on and then it's covering my face. Let me read some comments here. Rosetta Sandoros writes, they are not wearing protective gears, just checking like that from one car to another. All right, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia. The number is on the screen as you can see. Please get your calls coming in. Let me take them quickly so that you can interact with my guest. My guest has been doing the heavy lifting here with the heavy questions coming from me, and he has been very analytical for your own understanding. And so, folks, in cyberspace, waste no time to place your phone calls. We are ready to take your phone calls. Get the calls coming in, and I'm here to take them so you can participate. All right, let me see. We have a caller on the line here. Caller, your name and where you calling from. Caller, hello. Caller, your name and where you joining us from. Uh, yes, caller, go ahead.
Oh my God, are you live?
Caller, quickly. You are
Hello?
live. Yes.
Oh, okay. No,
Are you not ready, caller? Then we can go to
I'm
another person. Are you not ready?
no, I'm not ready. I'll call you back later.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that understanding. Folks in cyberspace, the phone
Okay.
lines are open. You can call quickly. Call quickly so you can interact with my guest yet. Mr. William, let me come back to you quickly. It seems to be the callers are not ready. It's like they are enjoying you and they don't want to talk. So let them hold their peace for now. Let's come back quickly to the issue of the state of emergency. Let's talk about the other component of it, the stimulus package. So the president roll up a stimulus package and is ambitious as others are describing it. That's not my words. And so what's your own reaction to the stimulus package? The president got a lot of things in there. What's your take?
Uh, let me, with all due respect to the President of the Republic of Liberia,
Mhm,
His Excellency Dr. George Managuia, uh, uh, commend him for, even though late, but his far-sightedness to think that
mhm,
7 pages document is needed was needed to sit before the Liberian legislature to
mhm,
review with his clear intentions and proposals.
mhm.
Uh, you know, Mr. C.
Yeah.
Liberian people are politicians for themselves. They're understanding these things. The days of us fooling the Liberian people with "I will give you rice, I will
Mhm,
give you money,
mhm.
and do this and do look," gone are those days.
Okay.
Gone are those days. It's just like me telling a group of college students when I spoke as the guest speaker at the Anoka Technical College commencement
Mhm.
a couple of years ago. I
Right.
told them, I said, gone are the days where people call you future leaders. When you graduate from college, why should people say call you future leader? You are in your future already. Why did you go to college? You graduate. You should be working now, making
Yep.
money, making impact in society. Just the same way with the Liberian people. My
Mhm,
brother, the Liberian people have had several elections. The Liberian people have seen war. The Liberian people have seen deception from leaders. And it is unfortunate for the president to think that coming up and saying you bring it $25 million to the people and this, that. Look at this document. Tell me where you got health care. What is allotted to health care? We are facing a health crisis and nothing is allotted to healthcare in this document. I challenge the president, I challenge the government. Where is healthcare? How much is allotted? How much? But you take $4 million in your words and gave it to LEC to provide electricity during the state of the emergency. There's a difference. You and I learn in economics. Even down in high school, you and I learn these things. Scale of preference.
yep.
Scale of preference. What do you prioritize more? What do you prioritize more? We're talking about the people you start from going to work. We are talking about the marketeers you took from the street. We are talking about the people you are beating who want to sell the market to come back and find food. We are talking about the students you took from classes that are not even learning and they are home. My children in America, they're home right now. And if you check on my dining table, everybody busy on their computer doing their work. School is still open. As I speak to you right after this show, I'm going to class right on my computer. I have a class at 6 p.m. and I'm going to be going to class. Mr. President, you're not thinking about all of these mechanisms. Maybe bring some computers for the college students. Maybe bring some computers for the high school students. But you are talking about allotting you gave $4 million to LEC to provide current when you didn't even talk about how how much gonna go to the health ministry or how much gonna go towards public health.
And Mr. Willen, if I can jump in, so you're talking about computers, being brought in or should be brought in, so that students can do distant learning or e-learning, as we call it here. So when there's no power, how do they get the computer turned on to do the schoolwork?
Well, That's the thing. This is it.
Hmm.
The issue of electricity in Liberia is not an issue that we should have crisis like this before we discuss.
Okay, fair
That should have
point.
been something the government should have taken care of a long time ago. Okay, I just got back from Liberia.
And
I
how many
go to
person in
Liberia.
Liberia, how many cities in Liberia have electricity in the first place?
That's the first thing. I was on Robert Highway. I drove in the dark from town. I was coming home late because I was doing meetings in town all day, and I was coming home late. And it's dark. At some point, I started getting afraid to drive on the road. Okay,
And I'm asking a question because the whole state of emergency, as it were announced, I read it religiously. The whole country is on a lockdown according to the president. And now you are providing electricity for few people. So how will the other people feel? Are they not part of the lockdown to not enjoy electricity?
that's the marginalization of our country. Our people are suffering right now in the hands of this government. And again, it is disheartening for a person like me to be saying that because Mr. C, I travel around. I went on 17 different talk shows defending the platform that was sitting in front of me that CDC had brought. I believed in the platform and I wanted a regime change. So I supported the coalition for democratic change. Okay.
Are
And
you
now you
disappointed
see
now?
that I am disappointed. I am seriously taken aback because the original platform of the coalition is flipped upside down of the president's desk.
All right, let's go back to the SOE. In the SOE, no, not the SOE, the stimulus package the president released. There is something there for food because when the president issued the state of emergency for people to stay on their lockdown, many people, oh, how can you do that? Liberians, have to do their daily hustle before they eat, which is a fact. And so the criticism, were well placed in my judgment. You're telling the person in Nickel Town, hey, stay home. The only way you can go when you're going out should be for 1 hour. You're telling me to go hustle for 1 hour. Sometimes I have to go on Broad Street to hustle. I don't even have transportation. I can't walk to Broad Street in 1 hour. Long matter short, so the president now looking at the criticism say, okay, I will provide food. All right. And so in the stimulus package, there is money being talked about in it to provide food for the people. But then the same SOE is saying for people in targeted areas, even though you lock down the whole country, including my home country of Grand Crew, that's yet to report a single case, you locked old man Namwe down not to even go on his farm to get a cassava, and you're telling me now, oh, targeted area will receive the rice. What's what's going on here? Explain it to me. Make sense of it. You the guest.
Again, this is no time for the president to be selected
Okay.
in his decision making.
Hmm.
I think, and nobody from the government want to accept this. And I learned something in political science. I always told people about
Hmm.
called confirmation bias. You're looking at it, you want to call it the truth, but because you're tied to, because you're part of this fraternity,
Hmm.
and you don't want to, disadhere to the norms of your fraternity, so you call it black, even though you see it as being white. Okay, the Liberian people are being deceived with the whole selective stuff. Let's see it.
Right.
Again, we keep using this word over and over. It is disappointing to realize that people who went to school, people who served government before, people who've been sitting for 12 years waiting to come into government have no idea, no strategy of how government works. There is something called proactive and reactive strategy. Okay? You can call that in psychology, you can call it in sociology, you can call it in behavioral management, wherever. But there's something called a proactive strategy and a reactive strategy. Where does the president stand on this? What did you do to prevent the situation of wanting to look for rights after you have brought a state of emergency unconstitutionally for against what the Constitution provided you? You're going for 3 weeks. You did not provide people food, no water, you did not pay civil servants, nothing, and you sent them to stay home. Now you're trying to be reactive in your approach by saying, you know what, let me give you people rest. After the people been flooded, you come up with rights. Now you're still saying, now the state of emergency is not only affecting the people in those counties that you named, though, it's affecting the entire nation. But you're out of strategy. You keep focusing on just one part of the country, maybe 17% of the entire population. You keep focusing on them, or 25%. You can give it that. You keep focusing on that. How does that benefit, the masses? It doesn't. This is not a good strategy, Mr. President. What you need to do, you need to take this money. And one thing I like in here, he said, even though we are getting XYZ amount of dollar, but IMF is going to fill the gap. So whatever is left, because the government is looking for $40 million. Get it straight. The government is looking for $40 million. So if the
And
government is going to generate $25 million that they put on, listen to what the president said. The president said in his 7 pages letter that IMF has agreed that they will provide whatever is missing. In paraphrase, right? They're going to provide that. Mr. President, take this money, get to the people, get PPEs for the healthcare workers, get, not PPE, but hand sanitizers and other things for communities. Go to the lawmakers. Each lawmaker, go back to your constituent. Get some money. You can get money from your covers. You know how to do it. Get there. Go help your people, your constituent. This is time where you give a compulsory recess. You appeal for a compulsory recess for all the lawmakers to go back home and help their constituencies. But you are out there talking about bringing rest for a portion of the people, whereby the majority of the people are hungry, whereby the majority of the people are not going to be able to do their business to make ends meet. That's being selective. It is wrong. I applaud the president for having the thought to do so, but I think the strategy is reactive. And to rectify that, the president need to go back to the drawing table to redesign this.
So you are saying this is a matter of healthcare crisis, and so any package needed to include the sector itself that is being threatened, right? And like in the case of Freetown, we got credible report that Julius Malapio has made available surgical masks for all healthcare professionals to wear. At least that's something. And that there is a package being made available for the vulnerable population, talking about the disabled and the blind. And at least one person is getting 250,000 leon, a Becca Rare, and several household items. And but in Ghana, the president of Ghana has given a pay increase, 50% pay raise to all healthcare professionals who are on the front line. More to that, he giving them zero on taxes. They're not paying anything for the next 3 or 4 months because they are on the front line, giving them incentive to see reason to go on the front line to fight. But in the case of Liberia, the president's stimulus package did not include anything for the healthcare professional who are in the field. Is that where your disappointment is?
So see, you took the word from the horse's mouth. That is exactly where my disappointment is. But more to that,
Right.
I would rather put a lot of money to healthcare, extend the time of your so-called curfew or state of emergency to at least 6 p.m. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Look, those are things I thought the president would be talking about right now. All right? And if you want to provide for the people, again, let the president not be like other government we've seen before. The executive just take all of the blame, whereby we have 3 branches of government. This is a time, and I repeat this is a time for the legislators to be active in their various constituencies. They need to get out. Let the people go out. Let funds be allotted. Let it go back and take care of the people, because it's almost impossible for the national government to see everywhere. This is not an autopus operation. You are sitting in one place, you can see everything that's happening everywhere. But that's what the people elected the lawmakers. Give them some money. Let them go out there and go and help the people in the various villages and towns and counties and whatsoever. That is the best way. That will be a fine approach. And if you're in a city, it is the time for you to sit down with the healthcare workers, because you have the health minister right there in the city anyways. You don't need long convoy, you don't need long ride. They're right there. Sit down. My brother, if the president is able to sit down with professionals, he will get the best advice. All of the approaches there. Let me commend the president. You mentioned the issue of the tariff. All right. Let me commend the president. And this is a recommendation I saw from oppositions as well. 30 cents on a gallon of gasoline right now is very much essential. That's not the I'm not talking about the president own or essential, because the president said his definition of essential is far different from my definition of essential. All right. I don't want to go into that. But the truth is, if you will respect the fact that there are things that need to be done for people to understand that you're being realistic about everything you're talking about, you will bring the professionals to the table and talk about it. The president, this is a fun strategy. If you reduce tariff right now, you think it's helpful. But my brother, in this time, how many imports are we getting in Liberia? How many things are coming to Liberia right now? How many vessels are coming import right now? All right. You have to look. There's a serious need for a serious empirical analysis on all of this thing we're doing. All right. There's a serious need. We have to be able to weigh the pros and cons. Maybe we can do a little bit of both quantitative and qualitative research to be able to help the president understand these things. Let's look at it. Critically speaking, if you do not have much vessels coming to port, the tariff reduction on tariff right now is important, but not very essential. You know what is essential right now? Gasoline coming in for the people to be able to move around. But if you said 3 o'clock, that's a driver leave early. So extend the time, okay? Reduce the price of gasoline. I agree with Darius DeLon and the leg of Rufus Newell and other people. So, my brother, the president, in short, the president needs to go back to the drawing table. Yeah, let's see it in the Liberian way. All of these things you're writing down on the paper, they are fun literature. But the possibility of these things being implemented, the Liberian people are still in doubt, because there is a stigma on this government of not living up to the promises. Okay?
All right. Let's go to something else, my brother. Let's talk about the other institutions. You know, we are talking about how is Liberia responding to COVID-19. You know, Liberia cannot be restricted to government. Let's look at our religious institution. Have you heard anything that the churches are doing? Have you heard anything the humanitarian institutions are doing in Liberia? Have you heard anything about individuals, Liberians, many of them who may have big pockets, are doing? And then what are some of the things that ordinary Liberians are doing? The citizens themselves, are they abiding by the protocols? Are they abiding by the SOE? Are they respecting authorities? Let's talk about that. Let's go. Let's start with the religious institution, the mosques and the churches.
Right. It is sad. My friend and brother Anthony Ernest Doro sent me a thing, and I was watching the video and we're laughing about it, and I asked him a question, and I'm still asking people this question around the world today.
Right.
If the citizens cannot rely on government for trustworthiness, if the citizens cannot rely on government in time of crisis, if the citizens' basic rights are being violated by the very government elected that should be protecting their rights, but yet and still the religious groups are being marginalized and being threatened by the very government, my brother, where do the people go? Where do the people go? If I can't run in a horse to save myself from getting wet under the rain, I should be able to stand at least under the tree where just a minimum of water will touch my body or touch my clothes. But if you cut that tree as well, you're killing me. You are killing me. This is what I'm trying to say. You have the churches, the mosques. You chose that. Look, even before state of emergency, you stop the people from going to church. You have the police director going to a senator church, walk in there and asking the president, now, let's get this straight. This is not a time of state of emergency. This is no time of curfew. But the president chose to attack the religious groups. Where in this story? I'm telling us, all of us watching the show, to tell me one mosque. No disrespect to my Muslim brothers and sisters. Y'all know I roll with your energy. All right. As a matter of fact, I got a lot of them as friends and brothers. All right. But the truth is, we can't go back to the day when the police director went to Senator Prince Johnson Church to ask him to close the service when Prince Johnson asked him to sit down for prayer, which was funny that they went to a mosque. They went, look, because the police director is just another empty head. You yearn for power. And my brother, I said to people who have talked to me before I came on the show that I am either going to get myself banned from traveling to Liberia, but I don't want to believe so.
You called the police director empty head. The man who is trusted by the president and got that lucrative appointment, that consequential job to restore law and order and
Let me tell
protect
you.
life
Let
and
me
property, and an institution that you serve in, and you are referring to the head of that institution as an
as an
empty
empty head
head.
because he proved himself to be that way. Patrick Suru did not become a police officer when George Weah took power. Let me give you that disclaimer. Patrick Suru was a police officer way before George Weah became war best. That's how long he had been a police officer. Patrick Suru is a personal friend. Patrick Suru is my former student. He's a personal friend. Patrick Suru lived behind the Rack International School. I was going there to his house to teach computer in his house. I'm not guessing him. Patrick Suru served the record division of the Liberia National Police up to assistant director level. That's the man I'm talking about. I want to tell you that I know him. If you are going to take order that are outside of SOP because you say you want to implement the president mandate, then you're just a politician, not a police officer. And as police officer, what we were taught to do by ethics is not to get involved deeply with politics.
All right, let's leave the government alone. Let's talk about the churches. The role of the church. That's what I want to know
They
in the
don't have
fight.
voice.
I mean, what the church is doing? Are they helping their members? Are they sharing information with them? Are they giving humanitarian, support to the communities?
You asked the right man the right question, my brother. You asked the right man the right question.
All right.
I am a member, a very proud member of the Quarry Apostolic Ministries International Church. Quarry Apostolic Ministries International. Go on the Oro and ask for my church.
Has your
The
church
church
giving a dime or a bag of rice or a cup of rice out
more than a bag
to the
of rice.
vulnerable?
More than a bag of rice. We
Okay.
have distributed things to and we got videos. It's all on Facebook. Bless God for the great mother of justice. And the resident pastor, Pastor Robert said,
Okay.
they distributed those things. And this is not the only one. Let me shock you. As an individual sitting right here, I am making an arrangement right now. My former church, of which I still have a spiritual father, will be getting at least 10 bags of rice from me to distribute to the members. And that would just be applause to what the church have already done for her members. The church in the Ark of Jesus Christ, they had a video distributing things to the members. But guess what? This was the same church on Good Friday that had gone in the butchers to pray for the nation, and they were beaten mercilessly by police officers on Good Friday. But
Did somebody get killed? Did somebody actually get killed?
One person. We saw his body. The light, they said he was moving. The video I was seeing, I did not see the guy move. And the wife was there crying. And the police officer was walking off. It's on video. It was on camera. I watched it. All right. And you look at the church now, you say you can worship, you can do. Look, the difference between Ellen Johnson Sally crisis management style and George Weah crisis management style, the difference between Charles Taylor crisis management style and George Weah management style is George Weah decides to marginalize the church who should be praying for the nation. If we agree that Liberia was built on a Christian principle, you saw Liberia for Jesus crusade. You saw the women of Liberia going on the field in front of opposite Ellen Johnson Sally to cry on the field. You saw Lema Bowie and the women movement in Liberia. They were there praying for the nation while Lema Bowie was engaging Charles Taylor, at the same time writing a book called A Matter Be of Power. Look, the church has always been a strong support arm of the president. It is detrimental for the president as an individual to marginalize religious organization. And I'm not just speaking for the church.
Oh, no. Samson, I'm sorry if I may be seen as somebody trying to come to the defense of the president here. The president and myself, we don't see eye to eye. I can say that publicly for the record because I'm not enjoying what he's doing. I am actually pissed about the way he's governing the country. But to say that this president who has a church, is more than trying to not be in the church corner or trying to maybe subdue the church politically, I don't think that is so. So let's leave it right there. But let us focus on what the church should be doing as an institution, what the mosque should be doing as an institution, in a collective effort to fight this pandemic. That's what I want you to hear. Let's leave the government a little bit. Let's focus on institutions and individuals. All right, folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony C., your host. We are discussing the nation, Liberia, respond to COVID-19, a pandemic that has threatened the entire world and allow people to be panicking, rightfully so, because of the viciousness of this epidemic. And we are discussing how our country, Liberia, is doing. We're looking at government response. We're looking at institutions response. We're also looking at individuals response. We're looking at politicians response as well. And that's why we do here at Focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate, and we promote all things Liberia. So what should the church be doing? Conclude on that so we can move to other institutions.
I think it's about time that the church do more humanitarian work and the church pray like always,
Right.
more than ever before. Because my brother, let's be a little bit of real Christians here, believers here, okay? The nation, the world is at a point where we need to, revisit our relationship with whatever master we serve. I don't want to, it's not just about Christian, it's not just about Muslim, not just about Baha'i or Hindus or whatever. It's about us turning back to the thing called prayer or the language called prayer. There is a serious need for more prayer right now. Going back to Liberia specifically, the nation needs prayer more than ever before. That's number one. Number two, the church needs to be more humanitarian than ever before. This is the time where our tithe, our offerings, and all of those donations need to speak for us. We need to get those things. Our people are sitting home. They can't get in the street. We have a president who has chosen to marginalize people in the name of SOE or state of emergency and curfew. And so our people need food. They need hand sanitizers. They need things.
Question.
Let the churches, I will speak for the churches.
Yeah.
Let the churches now help the people like my church have done. Let the churches get out there and seek the needs. Look, there are big churches in Liberia. My brother, you see some of the money the people can collect. Let the people get some of the money back.
That's true. That's true. Okay. That's true. Let question. Is the church in compliance with all the protocol, especially the SOE from the government? Or is the church in defiance?
To some extent, the church have some of the churches have decided to intentionally not respect the
authority.
Just because they feel like, why it is true that the president, it shouldn't be more than 7 days. As a matter of fact, the president, and you can't, I don't want to blame them. The president did not declare a state of emergency when he started going after the churches. Okay, that is tying a hand. That is what we call tying of hands. You did not declare a state of emergency, but you chose that churches should be closed down.
But social distancing was announced, and they were not social distancing, maybe.
Well, social distancing is a very good way to minimize the spread of this virus. But again, you have to educate the people very well on it. You cannot impose these things, my brother. You can't just impose it.
So were these churches, the few churches that we saw in defiance of the social distancing, the prevention of large gathering. I mean, these churches they don't really show the Christ-like behavior, because Christ told us to respect authority, because the church authorities where our authorities are constituted by God. They didn't set a good example.
Well, I wouldn't try to
just that instant they didn't really set a good example.
Right. I mean, the churches that decided again. I'm saying that if you will not pass a legal mandate or proclamation before you go after the churches, it seems more personal. So we will have to talk to the leaders of these churches to understand why they tend not to respect it. That's number two. The Constitution provided only 7 days for the president. So anything above 7 days, the churches do have the right not to respect it until the legislature can act. That is the Constitution of Liberia.
Well, maybe those churches got gutted by the religious zealousness, not respecting the authority. And maybe we should leave it there and go to something else, my brother. So let's come to individuals. The business community. I think the business community, to a certain extent, being compliance, right? Isn't it?
To some extent, I like the way you put it. To some extent, they
Hmm.
are opening their stores. I'm following it. I'm following Joy TV. I'm following KMTV. I'm following, Front Page Africa
Hmm.
Live and everything. And to some extent, the businesses are in compliance
Hmm.
with the president's mandate.
Hmm.
Notwithstanding, some businesses are using this medium to exploit the people. I gave you an example. I told you I followed the happenings in Red Light Market this morning, and uh, and then if you watch a video from Joy TV Saturday morning,
Hmm.
when they were at the Iron Gate Market in
Right.
Broadway, the
Right.
last female that spoke is my sister, my elder sister from one stomach. Okay, is my elder sister from one stomach. The Mary Ann Brown that spoke.
Hmm.
That's my older sister. And one thing she mentioned, she tried to be very political like her little brother. But one thing she mentioned in there, you're trying to spot the president coming. She said, I told the police people, you're trying to spot the president coming. The president didn't say we shouldn't buy our market. But then your business and the people carrying the market press up. That is what some of the businesses are doing. Why they should be out there too and reducing prices because the president said, I will reduce taxes on you, I will reduce tariff on you, I will give you some breaks. And these are things, these are yardsticks the president should have used before coming up with the state of emergency in the first place. Going to the small businesses or businesses in the country to say, look, we are about to bring this thing up. You got a marketeers here. How do they benefit? You're discussing people who took loan from banks. You're talking about providing subsidy for them. But what are you giving the businesses before you enforce this thing? So maybe the president should have gone to them to talk about it. Then they would not inflate prices. But right now, as we speak, there is an inflation in the market. The government already does not have control over price. Okay, our commerce system is so weak, and then you have businesses who say, "Look, the government got nothing to do with why I carry the price. Look, I open my store. You want to come and buy it, buy it. You don't want to come and buy it, stay out." So the people are forced to buy at higher rates than they were buying before. So a lady in right like this morning bought something that she was paying $700-800 for $1,200, and she thought the store was even being helpful to even sell it to her for $1,200. So look, my brother, it's about time for the businesses to understand that there is a crisis and the people need them more than ever before to wear humanitarian jacket and giving jacket as well, and not to use this medium to exploit the Liberian people.
The voice of Samson H. Williams, my guest yet focus on Liberia on this program, The Hour of Politics. Folks, in cyberspace, we sincerely want to apologize that every time we attempt to bring a caller in, the screen is covering me, and that is creating something that I can't continue with. That is why I have not been able to take the calls. That was, a technical problem with my setup here. I will correct that, and unfortunately, I can't correct that while we are broadcasting. If I do, the entire broadcast will be interrupted. So I want to apologize that you are not being given the opportunity to contribute. Let me read a few comments here quickly. We will be wrapping things up yet. Samuel Morris, right? What do you want the churches to do when they were the first to be knocked down? The church does not have to publicize her good doing. What we try to say is the church, we just want to know whether our guest has some information about, the church contribution in this particular fight, whether the church is giving some food items, providing some sanitizers to its members. Everybody need to contribute in this fight, and that's why we wanted to know because the members have been paying their taxes for so long. Maybe it's our time to give them something in return now that the president is saying, stay down home, don't go anywhere, and if you have to go, you have just 1 hour to go and get food, according to the Deputy Information Minister for Press and Public Affairs, Eugene Lamin Fagon, explaining the SOE. He said you have only 1 hour. Every horse will have only 1 hour. One member of the household must go out, and you have 1 hour to get what you have, and you must remain in your own locality. I think that was completely flawed for him to have explained that in that manner. But hey, it's Eugene Lamin Fagon. That's how he got his job. I can say that any day. Folks in cyberspace, my name is Anthony Sie. This is what we do. We educate, we elevate, we promote all things Liberia. We are coming to the end of our broadcast. Let me see if there is any further comment here. Marian Jones writes, Williams, that is just African people. Yeah, the white people process are still the same, but your African brothers have increased the prices in the African store. And let me see this one here by Morris. Nonsense plus times stupidity equals ignorance. I mean, oh, Samuel said, nonsense times stupidity divided by ignorance equals hell. I don't want my people to go to hell, please. So don't pronounce that hell. I don't like that word. I've seen a little bit of it when I was in Negro Town, facing that war called poverty. Very strong force that I could not combat. It was tough, but some way, somehow, miraculously, I make it here. It has been an honor to have you, Mr. Williams. I think you did what I invited you for to do, and I'm sure our audience are not disappointed. We cover everything we have for you. We will now take your parting comment. This Ebola, I'm not sorry, this Corona is not playing. Corona is serious. It's deadly, even though you have questions about the possibility of it being Liberia. But it is serious. You don't doubt that it's here in the US.
No,
If it is here, it can go to Liberia. What words do you have for our people who don't have it to eat, at least to talk about, to fight this pandemic medically? What do you have to say to them as a word of caution for their own safety and the safety of the country?
thank you, Mr. Sie. I like to tell the Liberian people that despite our disagreements, the common denominator of our being as Liberians is Liberia. Liberia first, Liberia last. And most of all, the citizens of Liberia and their well-being. Let no government fool you that you are not good for nothing. It's not about you. It's about you. Liberia is a country that practices a democratic form of government or governance. So you are important. Here's what I have to say to the Liberian people. Coronavirus is real. No doubt. I am not also in doubt of the possibilities of people having coronavirus in Liberia. We are concerned that if the government is saying this, beyond reasonable doubts, the citizen should be aware and convinced because the government themselves have created a doubt. Notwithstanding, it will be a good thing to abide by the regulations of the government because they say it's in your interest. And that is what you elected them to do, to work in your interest. So they know it better than you and I. They are in there. Okay. They are communicating with world leaders. They are communicating with the greatest doctors around the world. So if they say it's there, respect the measures that they are putting into play. But please push your lawmakers to do the right thing. Talk to your lawmakers to do the right thing. They are your direct representative in government. Mr. Sear, it has been a pleasure. Mama Liberia is at a point where we don't know who to run to. And it is sad. You can see my eyes. You know that I'm broke. I'm really broken. Just, by giving my closing comments. You can't damage the road you use to walk to the hut. You can't. This government will have to meet up to the people demands. The people are not making big demands. They just want honesty. Please be honest with our Liberian people. You will need them tomorrow. Don't wait for elections before you find them to be valuable. They need you now as government. Please stand up for them. Please be honest with them. Lastly, on your state of emergency, please go back to the drawing table and re-strategize on your whole joint security thing. If we continue to see people beating during a state of emergency, there will be a very strange movement in Liberia. that will openly tell the government that we are going to the court of law for human rights violation. And don't be surprised to see this face. We will take the government to tax if the government do not stop abusing human rights in that country. I like the president. The president is a big brother and friend. I believe in the president still. 12 years versus 2 years, there is still room for improvement. Mr. President, listen to us. We like you. We chose you. Please get back to the drawing board and fix it. Mr. Siet, thank you for the honor. It has been a very great honor to the listening audience. I'd like to say thank you for your comments and thank you for taking up your time. So, listen, we don't know it all, but you trusted us to take up at least almost 2 hours of your time of this day to just listen to what we have to say. And Mr. Sia, thanks for having this great show and the kind of audience. And thanks for being who you have always been. You're a big brother. I respect you. And I told someone about you and I said, you have no idea. The CDC we're talking about, if you're looking for stalwarts, go back to that Mr. Sia. He will tell you what's up. He is a stalwart. But it is what it is.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. Samson H. Williams. I will close with two comments from our viewers here. Christopher Tobase, right? Instead of equipping our troops with supply on the front to fight this dirty COVID-19 coronavirus, our lawmakers are debating on getting 3 months in advance for work they haven't done. What does that say about them? Why are they so inconsiderate? Why are they playing with the people's lives? Don't you know the statue belongs to the people? Mr. Senator, it's their bill. Shame on you. And Rosetta Ross writes, more awareness for COVID-19 is neither community awareness. John security should observe social distancing. Rosetta again, they should stop brutalizing our citizens. Bravo, Mr. Williams. On that note, folks, in cyberspace, I want to say thank you for following our broadcast here. I focus on Liberia on this program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony Sieh, your host. This evening at 7 p.m., we are having another show. Who is a Liberian? We will be talking about Liberian citizenship. How can one lose their Liberian citizenship? The debate is going on. Some people think some people are not Liberians because of their parental composition. You want to know the truth? Only one network. Focus on Liberia. We'll be doing it here at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then on Sunday, by 2 p.m. Eastern time, here I will be having Deputy Presidential Press Secretary Smith Toby, Q&A with Deputy Presidential Press Secretary Smith Toby here at this network on this same program. We will be here and I have some tough questions for you. You don't want to miss it. Smith have to tell me where this whole SO eating coming from, the brutalization of the citizens that are going on, who sanctioned that, and what the leaders are doing about it. Oh, I can't wait for that moment, and I don't want you to miss it. On that note, my name is Anthony here saying thank you for watching our show. To our guests, Mr. Williams, we want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody for watching, and we are leaving you with this song and saying, stay safe out there and bye bye.
We all Liberians.